Welcome to this panel. I will ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Try to keep it to 30 seconds each before we start our conversation. We can start from the farthest one, Yoav.
My name is Yoav Intrator. I'm actually running a JPMorgan Technology Center and Innovation over here in Israel, in Herzliya. We here growing very rapidly. We almost tripled in the year and a half, and we're still growing, we're still hiring, and we still want to partner.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vilius Šapoka from Lithuania. It's a great honor to be here on stage, and I hope we will have a lively, fruitful discussion.
Hi, Sagive Greenspan, General Manager for Finastra Israel and General Manager for the Payments Division in Finastra Worldwide.
Hi, my name is Assia. I'm founding partner and co-CEO of iAngels. iAngels is an investment firm in Israel that specializes in technology startup investments across key themes. Fintech and blockchain are one of them. And great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Talmi. I'm the CMO of PayKey. We are fintech that works with banks all over the world. We're actually providing a social banking solution that enables bank customers to access financial services from within any messaging application and social networks. We're working with more than 15 banks all over the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask the first question, and you can also answer, when you answer the question, also say, what are you hoping to get out of this day? Okay, you're probably looking to meet people and they're looking to meet you, so just say, what are you looking to get out of this day? And let's start with, what do you consider to be the major reasons for digital transformation we're experiencing these days, especially in the financial markets? And Vilius, perhaps you can start.
Future of finance.
Exactly.
So let's dream. You can close your eyes if you wish.
Great idea.
So in this beautiful country, you had a very clear dream to become a startup nation. And everybody knows across the world that your dream came true. We have a lot to learn from you. But also I would like to share my dream. And my dream is that Lithuania becomes Lithuania, high-tech country. So talking about Lithuania, we have a very perfect niches in such areas as lasers, biotech, robotics, medtech, and fintech. And what I do like the most about fintech, that with fintech, consumer is great again. When we talk about banks, traditional banks, usually we use definitions as capital adequacy, liquidity, systemic risk, and things like that. But when we talk about fintech, we talk about consumer needs. And I do believe that this is the most powerful driver in this question. Also talking about other drivers, when G20 talks about fintech, when IMF is talking about fintech, the European Commission develops a plan. I think that synergy between looking forward regulatory framework and that spirit from the market to disturb it, I think those are the main drivers.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to add?
Sure, I can add. I completely agree, by the way, with the fact that consumer is great again, and I think it's a key driver in terms of not only consumers, but generally, the user experience and what customers actually expect. Mm-hmm. And I think that drives tremendous transformation in all the financial industry, in the way that banks operate, in the way that fintechs operate. And it's much, what people, maybe older people or like the previous generation used to think about when they used to think about financial services was like an ETF or like a very specific, instrument that they could potentially buy from the bank. But today, the consumers are driven by powers of like millennial and what they expect from that user experience to be, with being able to move money around with the click of a button, with being able to gain control over the management of their own specific assets and also diversification across assets. And I think that's a major driving force for transformation. But even more, and if we want to take it one step further, it's not only the user experience, but it's kind of like banking for everyone or banking for all. Everyone today can access platforms like eToro, like PayKey, some of the things that we've heard today, and immediately get in touch with a financial offering or a financial account manager and somebody who can really help them. So it's really finance for the masses, which is like fintech for everyone, which I think is another great driver.
Amazing. So the next question is, who will win those customers, right, and their needs? Will it be big tech companies, right, Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, or will it be the banks? Okay, they're all fighting over the same customers, and we will have Sagive start and then Yoav maybe? Or, yeah? Because I know, Sagive, you're really keen on answering this question.
I think it's a combination of probably both. I think that the big techs are a huge enablement of technology, take cloud, take open sources that started from, some of them started from the big techs, take AI and machine learning. So there is a lot of enablement coming from the big techs. However, big techs have, most of them, maybe with the exception of Microsoft, that's why we like them, the others have aspirations. Take, even small techs like Starbucks. On their wallet, there is already over $1 billion that is away from the bank. Amazon is growing to be one of the biggest lenders in the U.S. because they have data, they have access to things that not necessarily bank have. Take Facebook with the Libra that they just announced. All of it is something that the banks feel uncomfortable, and rightfully so. So there will be a balance between big techs, whether they are technology enablers or they want to become some sort of banks and take away the intimacy between and the relationship between the banks and their customers.
Yeah, and do we trust these companies that are dealing with that data, right, or getting access to it? So we can talk about that later as well.
Yeah,
Yoav?
fantastic. So I think the revolution that we're facing right now, it's really driven by three: data, and data, right? So who do you trust actually to manage your private data? And do you trust the GAFA to trust your private data today on the social side? Can you trust them also with financial data? And that's really a question that we need to ask. And I think if there is one thing that the financial institution actually have, is they are actually selling trust, right? Sure. So, and again, this is something that we will drive the future market. Who do we trust in really managing your asset?
Guy?
Yeah, I think it's, I disagree about the revolution. I think it's more about evolution, and we see it in different markets, but also in the fintech market. New players are coming into the financial industry. We see the big techs, we see the social networks, but they are only trying to capture some of the market. When we talk to banks, and we do it on a regular basis, and we talk to consumer banks, the trust is still with the bank. This is where we put our salary, this is where we put our pension, and the things that the banks are lacking now is the user experience. And this is what we can learn from the big techs. The engagement is there. And this is exactly what we're trying to do in PayKey.
Exactly. You're not a big tech, you're a startup. So maybe you can tell about how, as a startup, you work with the big banks to deliver this experience.
And this is exactly the gap we are trying to close. We're trying to help banks play in this new arena of social engagement. We're trying to bring the banking services, the financial services, into where users spend most of the time, which is the social networks. Closing this gap enables banks to evolve into the new world of financial services, which is now changing into this arena.
And very quickly, your users can transfer money to someone else on WhatsApp with their keyboard, which is actually connected to their bank account, right?
Exactly. Actually, it's not only payment, it's not only money transfer. We bring all the financial services from the mobile banking app into the social networks. We do it with a keyboard, which is the best interface. We use the keyboard 140, 150 times a day, but the keyboard is just the enabler. The fact is that we bring the banking services into the social network without having to do a formal integration with any of these players.
Amazing. More?
Want to play devil's
More
advocate?
from more.
Want to play devil's advocate for a minute here? Because if we're talking about who's going to win over the user, just think about, Goldman Sachs with market cap of 75 billion, Facebook, $500 billion, growing up today in like the millennial alpha generation. We might end up seeing a whole generation that's kind of jumping over the whole banking system altogether. So we say, oh, we trust the bank, we put our salaries there, we put our pension there. This might not be the case in 10 or 20 years. I don't know to say that, my children are going to use the banking system in the same way. However, I do agree that there is a sense of evolution there. Everybody understands that they need to adopt technology to a significantly greater extent, and that's going to be the key driver. It's not about people, it's about technology. It's about losing, traditional methods of trust into trustless platforms such as blockchain. So people do understand that there needs to be rapid evolution in this industry in order for them to stay competitive. And if we are looking for the traditional institutions to keep on trying to win over the customer, there's going to be a significant adoption of technology and a very fast-paced evolution in order to just keep on tabs with what's going on with the tech giants of the world today.
Cool. So we spoke about users, we spoke about big tech, we spoke about banks, big finance. Who's left? Regulators, right? Regulators have really the main power here, perhaps except for cryptocurrencies, which they're still trying to figure out. So are regulators an enabler for innovation or a stability driver, or maybe they're holding us back from really innovating? So Yoav and Vilius probably have...
I would agree. First, I think we need to recognize that the regulators are not the devil in the game. Right? There is a purpose for them on. Sure. And it's really to try to actually to maintain the trust and really to maintain the economy, that it doesn't go havoc, right? So I think in that respect, yes, trust is really a key issue. How do we actually maintain? Blockchain is not necessarily the solution. Again, you take a look at the Bitcoin. If a bank allow 1/10 of the fraud that happened in that one, I don't think they will be trusted. So there's a reason, that's one of the technology. What's really happening in the digital transformation is really not one thing. It's the fusion all over the technology. Is the blockchain, is the AI, is the cloud, and all of those things that really driving this technology. So regulators are actually sort of putting some level of control. We as JPMorgan, it's not that we are not open-minded to cryptocurrency. We're actually fairly much even favorable as long as it control and manage in a right way to protect the audience and the customer that you have.
It's a centralized system, right?
It's not necessarily to centralize. This is, again, the different people say regarding the trusted versus not, or basically the open blockchain versus the secure blockchain that is in a different mode. I think that the key to recognize that I don't invite always to my house everyone, right? I wish. I mean, so there is partnership, there is relationship that you establish, and you maintain. You want to do it in a secure fashion. Bitcoin, for example, will not scale in any shape or form to the volume of transaction that we're actually talking about. So beyond it not even being secure to some extent, right, and completely uncontrolled. So if something happened to you, you lose your money, somebody broke into the environment, where do you go? There is no place. So there is no, again, you go back to the emotion of a trust that you actually have to bring. And I think the regulators really have a solid role over there. Yes, they need to change. Yes, they need to be much more efficient in the way they're actually working.
Vilius, you are close to the regulators, right, as a government official. You can tell us, from the inside.
I've just learned that I'm not a devil because I used to be a regulator for more than 10 years. So this is great, thank you. So I do believe that regulators should be very forward-looking and forward-thinking because as we can see from the past, regulatory framework is usually lagging behind the developments in the market. This is not the case in Lithuania. We have a Fintech development plan, which also has certain areas where we should change pieces of regulation, and it is reviewed on a constant basis in order to keep abreast with developments in the market. I do believe that it is a good example for other countries as well, and it allows us also to manage risk because, for example, we have a sandbox regime, newcomers program. Regulators learn a lot from newcomers. They learn about new products. They know where the risks are. They help to deal with compliance issues. And it is also a way to manage risk because you are very close to new market participants.
Maybe just another perspective. In my mind, the regulators often behave as a pendulum. So, they move from one side to the other, depends on the market dynamic. We saw it after the 2008 crisis. They went from driving stability. They realized many of them that it didn't work for them. They started working towards unification. So we see drive, especially in payments, we see them driving hard towards ISO in the UK, in the Nordics, etc. A lot of local are getting into international standards and enablement, such as open banking, PSD2, and we see it in many places. I think they are about to face new challenges with the big techs, as we discussed before. Are they going to regulate the big techs? Is Libra going to be regulated? So I think right now they will need to consider whether they will still remain an enabler in my mind, but I think they have new challenges that they will need to figure out what role they want to play.
And the big techs are certainly facing other accusations and challenges and investigations, not just in financial markets, but other markets, how they use our data. More, Guy, would you like to add about regulators, maybe some challenges you faced and how you overcame them?
I was just going to point out about the tech giants. We are in a situation now in the world where there's a lot of innovation and a lot of things that are just starting out. And being an innovator or being first mover, always, you always kind of tackle the regulator off guard because the regulation, by definition, comes after the innovation curve or the innovation cycle, because then they kind of understand what's going on and they need to figure out a framework for everybody to kind of live under. I think, by the way, in Israel, it's very interesting because here in Israel, people, and this is kind of like the Israeli DNA, we tend to think that we know better than everyone, so we kind of wait out and want to see what the U.S. is doing, what's going on in Europe, and then make a huge, make an Israeli salad out of that and lay it out as the regulatory framework. For us personally, for the iAngels investment platform, we cater to accredited investors worldwide, so it could be high net worth individuals, family offices, semi-institutional investors, also institutional investors, and so we're somewhat kind of, we're actually in an organization that enables people to invest in a way that's in line with the current regulation, the current state. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see, specifically, as we said about the tech giants, like Amazon with a new coin, Facebook with a new coin, how this is going to be adopted, because this has been the major point for discussion around the regulators. Also kind of trying to reinforce regulation on history, on everything that happened in 2017 and 2018. And we've seen it with, announcements such as KIN and, under regulatory eyes. And so I think it's still very, very early. And most of these issues are going to be flushed out because even the regulators understand that technology needs to be adopted, and it's like if you can't, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and you really cannot hold back the innovation. So it is going to happen, and the regulator needs to understand, how it's going to partake.
This way or another.
Exactly.
And in our blockchain and crypto track, which will start at 1:15, we're going to have 5 different panels with people, working heavily in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and blockchain, building companies and working where there's really no firm regulation. So I'm very curious to be there. I invite everyone to join us. And Guy, you can also talk about regulation. And also then our next question is what opportunities exist in global markets for fintech startups? So you can also continue to talk about that because you guys are working globally.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously.
So 2 points about regulation. The way I see regulation, I think the main or the key role of a regulator is to be an enabler. And we can see it in 2 different aspects. One of them is open banking and PSD2 in Europe, etc. We see how regulation actually make the market change, open up new opportunities for third parties, but also change the incumbent, change the traditional banks that make them do things differently than they used to do before. And that's a key enabler for involvement of services and better services for the consumer. On the other side, we see the lack of regulation, how it kind of hold the market, which is the crypto market. Everybody's talking about blockchain and crypto and the bubble, etc. But until regulation will be enforced, I don't foresee seeing it reaching mass market adoption. And in that respect, this is still missing.
Great. Okay, so opportunities in global markets. We have someone who came to visit us all the way from Lithuania, Vilius, right? Vilius can tell us about opportunities and perhaps what are the strengths of Lithuania, right? When we pick a country we want to enter, we want to work with, why should we pick Lithuania?
So let me start with a story about mother and son. A son had a dream to become a pilot, and he became, and his mother once told him, please fly low and slowly. Everybody understands that you will definitely crash down. So it's about speed and security. So the main answer to the question on opportunities and challenges is the right balance between speed and security. And in this respect, in Lithuania, developing a strategy for my dream to become true, Lithuania, we developed a strategy called STIG. Because if you want to be fast, you should shift on to top gear. So talking about STIG, S stands for start. So in Lithuania, it's very easy to start your business. We have tax holidays. We have a newcomers program where central bank consults on compliance issues. We have a sandbox regime and many other features which allow to create
You have an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And then T?
T
Yeah.
is technovate.
Technovate.
Yeah. If you technovate or innovate in Lithuania, if you commercialize inventions, so your profit tax is just 5%. If you invest into research and development, you can deduct expenditure 3 times. Of course, if you technovate, you should have a very safe environment. Therefore, recently we signed an MOU with 9 public institutions to deal with all kinds of risks stemming from fintech development. Then we have invest. If you invest into new technologies in Lithuania, you deduct the whole sum and your profit tax is 0. Of course, you need infrastructure for investments. So world-class ICT infrastructure, #1 in the world according to cybersecurity, and many other important infrastructure-related background. And finally, grow. You cannot grow without talents. So if you want to get a master degree in fintech, you can do this already in Lithuania in a few universities. Also, we know how to grow. In the period of last 10 years, Lithuania's growth, according to GDP per capita, was the biggest in the whole OECD. So we know how to grow, and taking this opportunity, I would like to invite all of you to Lithuania, to capital city Vilnius, to explore opportunities. And we are going to have a very great occasion for that. In November, we are going to have a mass conference on fintech with more than 2,000 participants. And you're welcome to join and maybe stay.
Yes.
There.
So this is a call for collaboration, and I think Israel and Lithuania in all the aspects that you mentioned are pretty similar, right? But of course they are different. So let's build these collaborations and see what comes out of it. And let's talk about the strengths of Israel, maybe in 30, 60 seconds, if Moore wants to say something, and then move on to a few interesting questions on crypto and blockchain.
Okay, so I think definitely Israel is an amazing ecosystem. I've been 32 years in the United States, a significant portion also in the Silicon Valley. I think we have a separation distance of 1.6 that actually really helping us really to very quickly find each other and really try to basically build the solution fairly quickly. One recommendation that I will tell to the startups in the Israeli space, if you come, don't come with arrogant, come with something really specifically. I want to borrow your story. It's not about the big fish eating the small fish. It's about the speed and the secure that you can actually work. So if you have a solution that really can help us really manage $5 trillion, over 100 actually countries, right, with 200 probably or more regulatory bodies, you're more than welcome. So yes, there is a lot of opportunity in the Israeli market if you're really addressing the key issues, which is really some of them trust, some of them basically is a platform, right, is a supply chain, how actually you work, and something that I forgot one more.
So speed is the name of the game, and now let's quickly move on to More, perhaps, or Guy, or Sagive, yeah? So strengths of Israel as a country, 30 seconds.
Great. So let's keep it with a focus on fintech. I think over the course of the last 5-10 years, what we've seen is also a lot of multinationals come in and form their own kind of acceleration plans and really become an invaluable player as part of the ecosystem. And it's much easier today for fintechs than it used to be. I mean, part of Israel's strengths is really being very software-driven and software focused, just in light of the fact that it's easier for us to innovate around these kinds of models, and fintech has always been a gravitational force. Also, blockchain, by the way, Israel is a major hub for blockchain. But I think, having partners on the ground, such as, the Citibank Accelerator, which could also partner as a strategic investor, the Barclays Accelerator, having partners such as the Floor that have strong relationships with multiple banks, essentially means that whatever you want to innovate around and across, you're able to, pick their mind relatively early on and gain that feedback and have these banks as a real design partner and a real partner for the journey, I think really changes the way the infrastructure, like the ecosystem for young fintechs. So, I mean, one thing that Israel knows how to do is understand that kind of onboarding process and work with these larger organizations. Mm-hmm. But needless to say, having them here in Israel, they want to work with you very, very early. The Israeli entrepreneurs don't want to take investment dollars from strategics very early, and that creates kind of a time frame of 2-3 years at the very least where they can work in collaboration without, coloring the startup in a specific way. So they can work well together early on. Then if things go well, they can be, customer, they can become a strategic investor and pave way to additional kind of cross-border collaboration and international expansion.
Great. So we have one last question, so we won't ask you about your prediction for Bitcoin, et cetera, and cryptocurrencies, even though everybody wants to know, but nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Let's talk about the battle. There is always a battle, right? It's business. Is there a battle? And who's going to win the battle? Is it big tech, finance companies, banks, or fintechs? And perhaps, some will collaborate and they will win the battle together. So quickly.
It's an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to win the battle. It's going to be a combination. It's going to be different in different geographies, different countries, but nevertheless, it's not going to be only financial institution or the incumbent. It's going to be a combination of them.
Anyone want to take a wild prediction? There is a battle. Someone will win. Someone will lose.
The user.
Vilius, yeah?
The user will win. We will win.
Israel will win.
Israel will win.
Israel will win. Sounds good. I like that.
I agree. The ecosystem will win. There will be always a combination between them. There will still be banks. They will probably look different 10 years from now, but the combination will win with the user at the center.
So I think the winner, and the winner is consumers. More competition, consumers.
And we are all consumers, right?
Yeah, the same thing. I believe that it's the ecosystem. Just take a look at what happened with the fintech. Initially, they were assumed to be threatening and disrupting the financial industry. We're now talking about let's partner. So it's really the partnership model that eventually I think we will win over here.
Thank you very much, guys. I will summarize. So let's collaborate, let's innovate, let's work with regulators, let's visit Lithuania, let's visit Israel, and let's meet in Berlin in 2019, December. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you all our panelists. Gentlemen, if you want to...